everyone, welcome to Itsy Bitsy's live read from Revive by Rowan Shaw. Chapter 1, Patrick. What song did you choose for the set tonight? From his stool facing his vanity, John France brushed his dark brown hair into loose curls falling over his shoulders and batted his long eyelashes, sending me a glance through the reflection in the mirror, shape of you. Nice, I flashed a naughty smile, my legs crossed at the knees as I leaned back with my hands propped on his bed. His entire room was as extravagant as he was, the headboard of his king-size bed ornamented to an excessive point. His light purple walls, covered in paintings so charged with designs they reminded me of Seagal. Messy piles of clothes were spread everywhere, even on his magenta comforter. My instincts wanted me to clean it all up, but the one time I dared touch his stuff, Jean France had thrown a fit and nearly kicked me out of his room. I'd known him since middle school. Back then, it was just him and me against the world. The only two queers actually out of the closet in a hostile environment where our difference wasn't always welcome. Like me, John France didn't give a damn what people thought. If anything, we both got a thrill out of antagonizing anti-queer assholes. Though we were purely friends and never had full-blown sex back then, kissing was always on the table when it came to pissing off the homophobes. We've experimented a bit in high school, but never went farther than a blowjob here and there. Then Jean France and I met different guys, and we stopped fooling around. At age 27, our lives were drastically different, but that never affected our relationship. Is Enzo coming tonight? He asked, leaning toward his mirror to check his mascara. I shook my head. He's still moping. Please tell me this isn't going to turn into another surreal episode. I don't think I can deal with that a second time. I don't know, I let out a long sigh. I told him not to date a bi guy. He wouldn't listen. But what do you want me to say? Jean France cut me a narrow-eyed glance over his shoulder. You do realize I'm pan, right? Not the same. How so? Because I've never dated a pan guy. My friend shook his head and applied some brown shadow to his cheeks. Is this still about Cedric? Will you ever let it go? I flicked my hand as if all that was in the past and forgotten, which it was. Kind of. You dated one asshole in high school. One, he just happened to be guy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they're all bad. My jaw ticked. Jean France knew better than to start an argument with me. He rolled his eyes through his reflection and rubbed his cheeks with a tissue to smooth out his makeup before raising his chin to apply some gloss to his lips. God, that asshole messed you up. He was lucky I wasn't working out back then. I was too scrawny, or I would have kicked his lame ass. Trust me, his ass was anything but lame, and neither was the rest of him. Jean France spun on his stool, all flamboyance and elegance as he trained his sharp eyes on me. That was 7 years ago. 7 years, Patrick. One jackass, and you let him ruin the entire bi population for you. I've been through many bi guys. They're nothing like you described, and God, those I fucked were good in bed. You're missing out, but whatever. I pursed my lips, ready to move on. I was right when I told Enzo not to date Florin, though. One head at that guy's business, one thing forcing him out of his comfortable closet, and he freaked. Enzo was my best friend, truly, and I loved him to death. He was almost a brother to me, but there were times when I couldn't deal with his poor taste in men. Since he'd first met him on that day, I picked up my sister from work. I had to watch him make poor decision after poor decision. First dating that asshole Surreal, then hooking up with Florin. He was the greatest guy I'd ever met, far too kind for his own good. Some people took that to a whole new level and treated him like dirt. I could barely stand to watch him let them tread all over him like a rug. You may not like Florin, but I've never seen Enzo so happy as when they were together. Jean France said. You need to do something and fix this. Do something like what? The guy acted like a fucking ass and broke Enzo's heart. Why would I want to help them make up? Because Enzo is miserable, and deep down, you know they belong together. They always did and always will. Talk some sense into Florian. You know him better than I do. I've only met him once, but it's clear he loves Enzo. Okay, so he freaked out. So what? Everyone's allowed to make mistakes. We can't all be perfect like you. I huffed, letting his sarcastic comment slide, but only because it was Jean France, and he could get away with a lot of shit other people didn't. Are you suggesting I kick his ass? I asked. I sure like the thought of that. Actually, I should probably whoop Cyril's ass as well. It would help me release some frustration. I doubt Enzo would appreciate that. All I know is they're perfect for each other, and you want Enzo to be happy. So fix this mess. I hated it when Jean France was right, but I was forced to admit Florian was perfect for Enzo, even if he'd managed to fuck up their relationship. Fine, I'll go talk to him. Jean France smiled and blew me an air kiss. Thank you. How about you? How is the Mason doing? Enrique's doing great, thank you very much. Our anniversary is next month. Still rocking hard after 5 years. He stood his long green silk rope reaching his feet. At least one of his friends had his life under control. He met his lover from Spain back when we were 22. They became inseparable almost instantly. He and Enzo were the kind of queers my mom would have liked me to be. Romantic and fleur bleu. The type of man who found someone to shack up with and never let go. But that wasn't for me. Is Enrique coming tonight? I asked. Jean France flicked his long hair over his shoulder and leaned toward the mirror for one last look at his flawless makeup. Isn't he always? He still doesn't mind? What? He stood with his hands around the belt of his robe and headed to his closet, where he undressed to near complete nudity for his black thong. Like many strippers, Jean France was scrumptious enough to give most guys in the crowd a hard-on without trying. All he had to do was appear for his fans was to go berserk. His chiseled muscles that flecked under his tan skin, his promising bulge, his sensual moves, all of that drove them nuts. Your boyfriend doesn't mind watching all those men drool over you. They never get to touch, he reminded me, without batting a lash as he searched through his hanging clothes for the perfect outfit. Should I be a fireman or a construction worker tonight? Since Enrique will be there, I'd choose the worker, just for the fun of it. A naughty glint flashed through his eyes. He definitely loves it when I wear this uniform, especially when the club allows him backstage and he gets to fuck me while my customers are waiting for their turn to get a lap dance. Spare me the details. I haven't fucked in 3 weeks, I groaned. Jean France laughed so hard his shoulders shook. Do you have a case of blue balls? He teased, his gray eyes twinkling wickedly. You should remedy to that quickly. I wouldn't want to lose you to a bad case of death by rotten dick. Unamused, I pursed my lips and ground my teeth while Jean France wrinkled his eyebrows and held his costume up in front of his perfect body. What do you think? Have pity on your poor fans. The club doesn't need to call another ambulance. Only last week, some guy faded during the show. It was probably due to the alcohol he had absorbed, but Jean France liked to claim it was his own doing. He wouldn't stop bragging about his show being so hot, and it made his fans pass out. It was definitely the best compliment I've ever received. I cocked an eyebrow. A better compliment than Enrique could ever make? Oh, he knows how to compliment me, all right. In more of a physical way. He batted his dark eyelashes a few times and gasped. Oh, I forgot to ask you, have you ever tried mutual penetration? With a double-ended dildo? No, with your dick. I let out a laugh. You've been watching too much porn, Mashu. He slid on his white shirt, his voice rising as if this was the announcement of the century. Enrique and I tried it last night. What part of me not fucking for 3 weeks did you not understand? Jean France went on like I hadn't spoken at all. It didn't feel all that good, honestly. We had to stop so I could give him a lap dance instead. Rode him for 45 minutes before he came. He made me climax twice. I'm happy for you, Mon Lapin, but you didn't answer my question. He doesn't mind other guys checking you out while you're almost naked out there. He shook his head, one leg stuck in his pants that nearly made him trip. I never strip completely. It's not any different than wearing a Speedo at the beach, really. I highly doubted that. Don't they ever get to touch you when you give them a lap dance in the back room? They can touch my ass, yes, but that's not sex. Not like the lap dance I gave Enrique last night. He sent me a quick glance and zipped his brown trousers that were so tight that they squeezed his ass like a damn peach. If they jizz in their pants, it's sex. Jean France burst out laughing, his big mouth spreading. Well then, I'm in trouble because all of my regulars definitely climax every time. They never tried to go further? It wasn't my first time asking him all about this. I just had a hard time believing his Latin lover was okay with it. Of course they do. It turns them on that it's forbidden. Does it turn you on? His little smirk poked up. Let's just say sex with Enrique gets rough any night I work. So basically every night. His crooked smile said it all. Jean France worked at 2 different places. The brand new gay club on Rue des Marques and an actual strip club somewhere downtown that had a female audience only. Unlike Enzo, who was coy and reserved, Jean France was loud, outspoken, outrageously sexual, and he'd enjoy disclosing every detail of his sex life. It was a bit too much at times, even for me. Speaking of the devil, he said when the entrance door to his apartment creaked open, then slammed shut. The sounds of footsteps preceded his lover, who stepped in just as Jean France was putting on his red jacket, beaming all sunshine. Standing at 6 feet, Enrique was as tall as him, but bulkier, his biceps large enough that his veins seemed ready to pop. His midnight brown hair was a wild mess from wearing a construction hat all day, and his naturally tan skin was darker than Jean France's olive complexion. A grin reshaped his full lips the moment his brown eyes zeroed in on his boyfriend. He didn't even notice my presence as he pulled Jean France by the hand, wrapped his arms around his waist, and kissed him, soon grinding against his crotch like a fucking bunny in heat. I cleared my throat, but Enrique simply glanced at me from the corner of his eye without putting an end to their tongue fest. Only when he arose Jean France enough that a growing bulge left an outline in his pants did he stop. Hi, Patrick. To what do we owe the pleasure? He's coming to the club tonight, Jean France replied for me. Enrique raised an eyebrow. Someone needs to get laid, I see. I don't just go when I need to get laid, I replied. There were a few times when I'd gone clubbing just to dance. It was rare, but it did happen, at least once or twice. Enrique gave a tiny smirk and turned to Jean France. I need to shower. His Spanish accent rolled thickly through. His French grammar was always implacable as he took off his T-shirt on his way out, and Jean France put on his boots. He returned 15 minutes later, dressed in black pants and a white tank top that stuck to his muscular chest. Ready? As always the designated driver, Jean France grabbed the keys to his car and glanced at me. What if you meet someone tonight? I came here on foot. If I find someone I like, we can go to his place or walk back to mine. Thank you for listening to this portion.